from T7 Training, and thank you for joining me to learn the basics of using an Apple iPad, one of these. So if you're doing this course, it's because you need to learn the basics. You might have not used one of these iPads before, or perhaps you have used one before but you don't feel confident that you're using it the right way. This really gets you up and running and able to use the basic features of the iPad. It's certainly not going to turn you into an expert, but you need to start somewhere, and the only way to get there is to start. So just take you through this. First of all, we've got one of the iPads here. This one right down the bottom has a little home button. So the home button is really useful on an iPad. It's a great way to press it so that you can just get back to the home screen. And the home screen is sort of a good place to return to whenever you need to. If things are going wrong or you're not sure what's happening, you can press this and it's always going to go back to the same place. And that makes it a really handy button for a beginner. It also has a little fingerprint scanner in it. We'll look at how to set that up in a more advanced level of working with an iPad. Right up the top here you've got a little camera. So that means you can be looking at the screen and have this camera recording you or displaying you on a webcam on somebody else's computer or iPad or phone or something like that. So that way you can see what's happening and they can see your face. Great for video calls. A few other things. On the back we have the iPad itself, but at the very bottom you can see there's a little charging port. Now these days the charging port, you can put the plug in either way around and it's going to charge fine. There is no proper up or down way to put it in. Put it in either way, perfectly fine. That allows it to connect to your computer, and it also allows it to charge on the charger, and that's what most people will use it for. And on the left and right you've got a couple of little speakers there. That's where the grills are. If we have a look at this side on the left, well, your right, and excuse me, you'll see a couple of volume buttons there, volume up and volume down. Pretty straightforward. We all know how to use those, I think. And right down the bottom there you're going to find just a small little patch. Now if you don't have that patch there, don't worry. That's where a SIM card can go, just like on your mobile phone, so that you can have this connected to the internet even when you're not connected to a Wi-Fi network. So you can just take it out and about and it talks to the internet the same way as your phone does. So you just get a SIM card and put it in there and it works the same way. If you don't have one of these, it means that you can only connect on Wi-Fi, which means you need to connect to somebody's Wi-Fi modem, whether it's at home or at work or in a cafe or whatever it might be. Over on this side we've got nothing. Very easy. And at the top we have a headphone jack, so you can plug your headphones in. And on the other side we have our power button. So let me show you that a bit closer. Power button there, very handy. You press it for a long time, as in a few seconds, to turn it on when it's completely off. And that's going to start the iPad up. And then to turn it off, you would also use this as well. But it's not just for turning the iPad off, it's also for turning the screen off. You can press it quickly, just a short press, click, and that's going to turn the screen off. A couple of other things. This black bit along the top here is an aerial. Your iPad may or may not have that, it just depends on the model. You've got a little camera at the back here, and this camera is allowing you to take photos, so you can see the screen and take photos of things that you're looking at. Now if you don't have a button on the bottom of the iPad, you want to slide your finger up from the bottom of the screen. That's the same as pressing the button on an iPad that does have a button. So if you have a button, simple press turns on the screen. If you don't have a button, slide up from the bottom, and that's the same as pressing a button on an iPad. So that's a little tour going through all the bits and pieces on this iPad. So let's look at turning it on. I'm going to press the button at the top right hand corner, and I'm going to hold that button down until the Apple icon appears. Once that appears, we'll wait. It might take a minute, and that's going to start up the iPad. Just some things that you'll see here. We've got all the icons of the programs, and you can swipe across with your finger and see other icons as well, and you can swipe back. As well, you've got a little space up the top here called the status bar, and you'll find little pieces of information in here. Like here, I can see it's connected to Wi-Fi, it's got 80% of the battery left, and I can see the current time and current date. These two little dots at the bottom here show me how many screens there are going left and right. So I can see the bright one is showing me which screen I'm on. There might be more buttons on yours if you have more of these icons for programs. And then you'll also find a bar at the bottom, which has programs that stay there no matter which screen you're looking at. So that way you can have some programs always easy to bring up whenever you want them. And we'll have a look at how to use that a bit better a little bit later on. Right now though, let's turn the screen off. Easy to do, just a quick press on that button at the top right corner, and that's going to turn the screen off. The iPad is really good at saving battery. You don't need to turn it completely off every time you're not using it. You can just press that screen button at the top and it's going to turn that screen off, and that's going to save you most of your battery. It also will turn off automatically after a few minutes. To bring it back, you really want to press the button down the bottom here, and that's going to bring up this screen, and then you press that again. So turn the screen off when you're not using it, press the button at the top right hand corner. Turn the screen back on, press the little home button at the bottom and press the home button again, and you're back where you were before. If I want to turn the iPad off completely, for example if I'm putting it in a suitcase, then I'm going to press and hold the button at the top right hand corner, and it comes up with this screen. You can see at the very bottom there's a cancel button in case I change my mind. And I'm going to press that again, that button on the top right hand corner of the iPad. And you can see a little slide to power off button here, and you'll just slide that across. And after about a minute, the iPad will be totally turned off. Nice and easy to do. Now I'm putting my thumb here because it helps me grip to press at the top, but the button I'm pressing is right at the top there. It's not here, it's actually that button on the top of the iPad on the top right hand corner. Here's an important thing to know about the iPad. It's called the control center, and if you didn't know where it was, you might have trouble finding it, but it's very important. It allows you to control whether Wi-Fi is on, whether do not disturb mode is on, whether you can rotate the iPad sideways and the pictures rotate with it, and the screen brightness and things like that. Here's how you get to it. You put your finger on the front of the iPad, not on the top, but on the front of the iPad, outside of the screen, somewhere very close to the right hand side, and you swipe down, and that's going to bring up the control center. To get rid of it, you tap somewhere else on the screen. You really need to swipe very close to the right hand side. If you're too far away from the right hand side, you're going to get something different. And this thing that I'm dragging down here isn't really too useful. You might find it useful, but generally you're going to find the control center a lot more useful. So finger really close to the right hand side, swipe down, that brings up the control center, and after a while you get used to doing that. You can do that in nearly any app. So it doesn't matter what you're doing on the iPad. At any stage you can usually swipe down on the right hand side from outside of the screen into the screen and bring up the control center. Now there's going to be a number of things in here. One of them will be the plane icon, and the plane icon is simply for flight mode. It stops the iPad communicating to anything wirelessly. You've also got this button here. This is for mobile phone SIM card. So it's stopping or letting the iPad communicate with the mobile phone network, allowing you to use mobile phone internet. This icon turns on and off the Wi-Fi. So you can have the Wi-Fi on or the Wi-Fi off. It's just a case of tapping it, turns it off. Tap it again, turns it on. And you've got Bluetooth. Bluetooth is handy for devices like an external keyboard, so you can turn that on and turn that off. Rotate is going to stop the iPad from rotating its display when you rotate the iPad. If you're trying to hold something sideways but you don't want the display to rotate sideways as well, you can use this to turn that on or off. Do not disturb mode simply means you can put the iPad down, go to sleep, or be in a meeting and not worry about it making bings and bongs. There's a lot of other things in here, and I'm not going to take you through all of them because really we want to get the basics down. And these are the most important ones for you to know, as well as this one here. This little sun is the brightness. So you can control the brightness of your iPad by just sliding up and down that control. And as well, you have a volume control here, but of course you also have the volume buttons on the right hand side at the top. But for now, they're the only buttons we're going to have a look at in the control center. So I'm going to tap somewhere else, and that's going to get rid of the control center. The little blue box with the envelope is the inbuilt email program inside of the iPad. But if somebody has installed Microsoft Outlook, which is Microsoft's email program, then somewhere you're going to find a button that looks like this. It's a little more stylized, but it still just looks like an envelope with a piece of paper coming out of it with a little O in front of it for Outlook. And if I tap that, that's going to open up the Outlook program. If you get little messages like this coming up, you can always press that little X just there, and that's going to get rid of it. So you can use your finger to scroll up and down. You can tap the email you want to look at, and just like before, you can turn the iPad sideways and you can see the emails and the list of emails at the same time. I'm going to turn it back this way. You can still pinch to zoom. You can use your two fingers and spread them apart to zoom in and move it around, and you can use your two fingers on the screen and slide them together in order to see more of the message. Now, what if I wanted to delete an email? Well, I'm going to delete this one down here. So I'm tapping this email here, and once again we have a little trash can at the top right hand corner, and that's going to delete that email. What if I wanted to reply to an email? It's very similar, but not the same. You tap inside of this reply area at the very bottom, and you're going to get this tiny little email area, and the keyboard will come up, and you can type your reply. We'll have a good proper look at the keyboard fairly soon. To send the email, we're going to press this little arrow here on the bottom right hand corner. Pressing that is going to send the email. We're going to come back to how to use these email programs in detail fairly soon, but right now we're going to have a good look at how to use the keyboard. Let's have a look at how to use the keyboard. The keyboard is going to appear anytime that you tap at a place where you can type things. So the obvious place is inside of an email, but maybe it's inside of a note or a reminder list or various other things that you could do on an iPad. We're going to have a look at it inside of a note. So I'm going to tap this Notes button up here. And that's going to bring up this Notes program. If it's the first time you've used it, you'll get this little pop-up and you can tap that Continue button. Here's a note that we're going to type in. So I'm going to tap on the right-hand side of the screen. And then I'm going to tap in that blank area again. I've got a flashing cursor up here, and I've got the keyboard down the bottom. This top area will look different depending on the program you're typing into. You might be typing into an email, you might be typing into a Word document, you might be typing the time into the clock for an alarm, but this keyboard at the bottom will appear. Now, if the keyboard doesn't appear for some reason and you use an external keyboard, it might be because your iPad thinks, well, we'll just use the external keyboard. And if that's the case, then swipe down at the top right hand corner for the control panel and turn off Bluetooth. And that's going to disconnect that external keyboard so that the internal keyboard will work. But if you don't have an external keyboard, that's not the problem. Often the problem is simply that you need to tap at a location where you can type. So if the keyboard doesn't come up, just tap again at that point where you want to type and see whether it comes up. Now the basic typing is straightforward. Typing, you're just tapping those keys, is straightforward. There's a return button, puts you on a new line. If I wanted to type somewhere inside of some existing text, you could just tap where you want that flashing cursor to be and insert that extra word. If you wanted to delete a word, you would tap at the end of the word and you would press this little button at the top right hand corner. Just keep tapping it and that's going to delete letter by letter. Very easy to do. What if I want capital letters? Well, they come up automatically when you start typing a new line. Now the reason why this line is smaller than the first line is because the first line is like a heading and then the second line is the actual text. Not every program is like that. Your email program will be different, your Microsoft Word program will be different, websites will be different. But this one, the Notes program, first line is the heading, second line is the actual text. What if I want a capital letter at a place where it doesn't happen automatically? Like this word automatically. Well, you've got a little up arrow on the left and on the right, and you press it once, and that's going to give you one capital letter. Nice and easy. What if I wanted the whole word to be uppercase? Well, you tap the shift button twice, quickly, not slowly. Slowly won't work, it's got to be quickly. 1, 2. Like urgently tapping someone on the shoulder. And that will give you all capitals. So a double tap on the shift key. You can see it's got a little line under it to indicate that it's a shift lock. And to turn off the shift lock, a single tap on the shift key puts it back into being normal text. What about all this predictive text at the top? Well, you might be used to it on your mobile phone. It's very similar on the iPad. You start typing and it's going to come up with suggestions based on those first few letters, and you just tap it and it puts it in. Nice and easy to do. What if I want to delete a lot of text? So I want to delete all of this capital letter text here. I could tap at the end of it and then use the backspace key, but that will take too long. I'm going to double tap a word, and when you double tap a word, it selects it. Now sometimes you'll get slightly different markers at the start and end, and sometimes they'll be a different color. But the idea of them is the same. You can drag those to encompass whatever it is you want to do. And you might not want to delete it. You might want to do something else with it. You might want to look it up. You might want to use this BIU pop-up to make it bold, italics, or underline. Perhaps you want to cut, copy, and paste it. A good metaphor for cut, copy, and paste is it's like a newspaper in a scrapbook. Cut is like cutting a newspaper article out of the newspaper. You're taking it away from where it is. It goes into the computer memory, and when you tap somewhere and then press paste, that's going to paste it at that location, like a scrapbook. Copy, however, is going to copy whatever you've got selected, like a newspaper article, except photocopying it. The original article stays there in the metaphor. Your original text stays here in reality. And then you can tap somewhere else and press paste, and it's going to paste that text. So again, if I use cut, that cuts that text away. It's in the computer memory. I'm going to tap where I want it to go, like that, a single tap. If that doesn't bring it up, give it a double tap. Here it's selected the entire word, but if that happens, you can always move it. Remember, you can drag those little lines. And here I'm going to press paste, and that's going to paste that text. But if I double tap a word, let's say I double tap for these words here, you can see it works over multiple lines. And then I use copy, that's going to create a copy of the text, and then I'm going to tap where I want it to go, maybe a double tap to bring it up, move, and paste. Now I'm saying a double tap where you want it to go because it makes the concept easier to see, and also covers you so you know what to do if it selects a word and you don't want that word selected. But you can just give it a single tap, and you'll see right down the bottom here is this little icon. It looks like a clipboard with a piece of paper in front of it. When I press that, that is the paste button. So I'm going to double tap a word, and note we've got a pair of scissors for cut, we've got 2 pieces of paper for a copy, and then a paste board with a piece of paper in front of it for paste. And that's exactly the same as pressing cut, copy and paste up the top. How do we get these numbers? You can see the numbers at the top of Q, W, E, R, T, Y, etc. But how do we get them? You need to drag your finger down on the button. So put your finger on the button and drag downwards. Once you know, it's very easy. It's just press the button and then drag down. You don't want to just press the button because you're going to get all these unusual characters coming up, and that's not really what you want. You want to press and drag down on the button, which means that's how you get things like this, the $ just here, or the percentage sign just here, or the @ symbol just here. What does it mean when I get a red squiggly line underneath a word? Well, you would have noticed 2 things happen there. One is that I typed in spelling so badly that the iPad couldn't even work out what I was trying to type. Whereas I typed in the word error with 1 R, and the iPad said, I know what you're trying to do, and it fixed it for me as I went. So one of those is called autocorrect, and that's great to have autocorrect. But the other one is something where it said, I don't know what this word is, I've never seen it before, I need you to tell me what it could be from a list. So the red little underlining, I'm going to tap it once, and it's going to come up with what it thinks that word might be. I want spelling, so I'm going to tap spelling, and then it's going to replace it. So a single tap on words that have red underlining, and then press what the word should be. Now what if I'm typing, and I decide I didn't want to type that? Well, you can shake the iPad. Now you don't need to shake it like you're angry at it, just a light little shake. And it's going to say, do you want to undo what you just did? I'll say, sure, undo. And that's going to undo what I just did. I'll shake it again, and it's going to offer to undo the next bit. Shake it again, undo the next bit. If you want to shake it out of frustration, you can, but just a light little shake allows you to undo what you just did and go back through your history. There are many more things on this keyboard, but they're the main things you need to know. It's opening Microsoft Outlook, and we're going to have a look at how to create a brand new email. At the very bottom, you can see is a little blue circle, and it's got a square on it with a little line coming out. That's for creating a new email. If I tap that, I get a new message pop up, and I type in the email address. So we're typing in the email address. Press return on the keyboard, type in the subject line for the email, tap down the bottom and type your email. Just like typing into lots of other programs. Once you're finished, just like before, you want to press the little blue arrow at the bottom right hand corner, and that's going to send that email. But what if I decide I want to finish this email later? There's a little X at the top left hand corner. You just tap that X, and you can see at the bottom left here it says draft saved. How do I see that folder, the draft folder? Well, there are the lines at the top left hand corner. Lines usually indicate some sort of list. So I'm going to tap those lines, and sure enough I get a list of all of the folders. You might not have as many folders as this, but you can get them set up. I'm going to find the draft folder. There it is. I'll tap draft, and that's showing me all the emails that I've started typing that I haven't finished typing. And there's the one that I was working on just a moment ago, and now I can go back to typing it. I don't need to finish it right now. I can type the rest later. If I do decide I want to keep working on this, I might decide that I need to attach a file. Well, there's a little paper clip just down the bottom here. I'm going to tap that paper clip, and you get a few options. Do you want to just take the last photo that you took and then attach it to this email? You simply tap that button and that will put that in. Perhaps I want to choose a photo from all of the photos that are in the iPad, and we'll look at how to take photos a bit later on. Or maybe I just want to attach some sort of file that's on this iPad. I'm going to tap attach file, and that's going to bring up a list of all the files. In this case, I can see a couple of things here, some email spreadsheets. I'm going to go and tap this. If I want to take a photo right now, just press the little camera button. Take the photo, and then press done at the bottom right hand corner. Get rid of that. Now what if I've received an email? I'm going to go back to my inbox. Again, remember those little lines at the top left hand corner shows you a list, and I can see I'm still in the drafts folder because it's blue. I'm going to tap the inbox, and that's going to show me all the emails that have come in. And if I tap this one, note to self, I can see there's a little PDF attached to that. I'm going to tap that PDF, and it's going to open that PDF. Once again, remember you can pinch and zoom. But I'm going to press this little X at the top left hand corner. That's going to close the attachment. Well, I want to keep this, so where am I going to put it? Well, you can file it by pressing the three dots on the right hand side. Three dots usually means extra options, and if I tap three dots, at the very top is move to folder. There's lots of things in here. We don't want to go through too much at this level. We just want to keep it nice and simple. So let's stick with move to folder. There's my list of email folders. I'm going to put that in holding bay, and that's now filed away in the holding bay folder, which I can see at any time by pressing the three lines at the top left and then tapping holding bay, so I can view the emails that are in the holding bay. And there it is right there. Remember, as always, three lines at the top left, go back to the inbox, so you're looking at your standard inbox where your emails are going to come in. I'm going to press the home key, and that's going to take me back to the home screen. Let's have a look at how to find files on your iPad. If there are files that you've saved from your emails, or perhaps you've saved them from making them on the iPad, You can find them by pressing the folder button. It looks like a blue manila folder, and this is going to show you the files on your iPad. You can see here's one of them. If I tap this, it's going to display that file. And up top you're going to see some options here, including sharing that file. Usually you'd be doing something like attaching it to an email, or you might be printing it. And you've also got this button over here, which is going to show you all the files that are in this folder. So if you want to switch to a different one, you can. Very easy to do. And you can see on this one there are lots of pages over on the right hand side. You can just drag your finger down those pages on the right hand side to go through all the pages of a PDF. You can also scroll up and down by sliding your finger, and you can also pinch to zoom. I'm going to press done at the top left. That's going to take me back to this folder, and it's always possible that you might need to go back to other places where files are stored, like for example the iCloud, or maybe files that you've recently deleted. To get rid of that, just tap over on this right side here. What if you need to search for a file? Well, you tap in the search area, type in what you're looking for, and it's going to come up with anything that matches, both recent or on my iPad. Not many files on this one. And once you're done, you would press this little X over here on the right hand side of the search area, and that's going to show you all the files again. Let's have a look at how to use the camera on the iPad. You tap the camera icon, it opens up the camera, and you've got a lot of buttons in here. We're just going to look at the main ones. The big white button is for taking a photo. You can see the photo you just took underneath that white button. And you can tap that to have a look at it, and then press the back button up at the top left here to go back to the camera. You've got the ability to take a photo or a video. You've got other options as well, but the main ones you want are really just photo and video. When you tap on the screen, that helps tell the iPad where it should be focusing. And you have a rotation button right here, and that's going to show you the camera on the other side. This little slider on the left allows you to zoom in and zoom out. There are other features on the camera, but really they're the ones you need to know at this stage. I'm going to press the home button to go back to the home screen. So where do you find the photos once you've taken them? Well, they're inside the Photos button, which is here. On my iPad, there's one down here as well, and there might be on yours too. I'm going to tap that. There's all the photos I've taken recently. You can see some are of the iPad, some are of a computer, and there's the photo that I took just a moment ago. Just tapping it opens it. You can always pinch to zoom and all the usual things. If you can't see the controls on the photo, just tap it once and it'll bring those controls back. The most important controls you need here is this little arrow coming out of the box. By now, you probably recognize that as a share button. And you can see here the buttons in order to share that in your email program. I'm going to tap that X in the corner to close that. You've also got a trash can up there, which you can tap to delete the photo, and you've also got a back button over here to go back to looking at all the photos. Pressing the Photos button up on the left, you will find various categories for these photos, and some of them will go in there automatically. Some of them you can put in there manually, but that's something for later on. Right now, let's keep them all together. I'm going to tap over on the right hand side to get rid of that menu. The last thing to point out is that you can tap on a photo and then swipe to the left or swipe to the right to go through those photos. And you can see these are all the photos and screenshots that I've taken recently. I'm pressing the back button at the top left to get back to this screen, and then I'm pressing the home button to go back to the home screen. What if you need to use a QR code with your iPad? Well, you can. You just use your camera and then you point it at the QR code and it will show you what the QR code is for at the top of the screen. Now you don't need to keep pointing it at that QR code. That will stay up there, and it will stay up there as long as you like, just as long as the photo app is open. And you can just tap that at the top and that's going to take you directly to that website or form or whatever it might be. The last thing we're going to look at today is using the internet. Now, a lot of beginners struggle using the internet on a computer or an iPad or a phone or many other places. It's because you have a program to access the internet, but then every web page is built differently, with a different look, with a different philosophy about how it's supposed to be used, which means as you get more and more experience, you need to look for the cues that you learn over time of what needs to happen where. And that's a very big subject. But on the iPad there is one program you use to access the internet, and that program itself is fairly straightforward to use for the basics you need. It's this one here. It looks like a compass. It's called Safari. I'm going to tap that and that's going to open up my Internet Explorer. To go to a web page, you would tap at the very top and you would type in the web page. You don't need to type in www at the top, but you can if you like. I'm going to type in t7training.com. Tapping the Go button takes you to that website. Now there's a number of important buttons on the browser. From the left to the right, you can see a backwards and a forwards button. If I go to the online training tab here, so I've tapped online training, it shows me the online training page. And if I need to go back to the page I was at a moment ago, I press that back button up there. If I want to go forwards, I can go forwards to the page that I was on. So it's like going backwards and forwards on a DVD player. So how do you save a bookmark on an iPad? Well, you need to press the box with the arrow coming out of it. You'd be familiar with this as a share button, but it also does other things. There's a lot of things on here. We don't want to get too bogged down in detail, but this is the one you're interested in. Add bookmark. You tap that and then you tap save. The keyboard comes up so you can give it a more meaningful name if you want, but tapping save is going to save that. And now when I press the bookmarks button, you can see over here, the inside of favorites, there's the list that I've saved, including this one, online training, down the bottom. I'm going to tap on the right hand side to close that menu. There is a curved arrow on the other side. This allows you to reload the web page if it hasn't loaded very well. I've also got a plus up on the top. This creates a brand new tab at the top. You can see we've got online training at the top on the left, and over on the right, I'm going to type in another web page. And now we've got YouTube on the right and online training on the left. You can tap either one of them to switch between them. In fact, you can open up lots of web pages this way. It can get a bit difficult to see which one you want when you start opening up more and more of these tabs at the top. So it can be a good idea to close them as you don't need them. And you can see a little X inside of a grey box there. If I tap that, that's going to close that tab. I'll press plus and open that tab again. Now I've got my 3 tabs back. Last button on the right here, if I tap that, it's going to show me all of those tabs, but with a little preview. Really makes it a lot easier to see what those tabs are. And if I wanted to close one of those, again, you've got a little X at the top left-hand corner, and that's going to allow you to only see one or a particular one. The 2 boxes at the right-hand side, tapping that is going to show you all of the tabs with a little preview, which is handy to be able to switch in between them easily. And it's also easy to know which one you're closing with the X at the top left-hand corner. Just tap it to go to it, press the two squares again, and tap the one you want to go to. Last of all, if you want to search for something on the internet, it's very easy to do. You just tap up here in the address bar, type what you're looking for, tap go, and it's going to do a Google search for exactly that subject. Tap what you're after, and that will open up for you. Hey, thank you for watching this iPad 101 session. This is really a bare bones, grassroots, starting from scratch iPad training session. And the idea of it is to not overwhelm you with a vast amount of knowledge that you really won't remember. It's about getting those absolute basics down so you can do the absolute basic things and understanding how they work. If you get good at those, you can build on top of those with your requirements as you need them in a good, strong, stable way. But you've got to get good at these things first. You could spend 2 weeks talking about the iPad and you still wouldn't learn everything about it. There is so much in here. Nobody learns everything about the iPad. But you start at the start, you get good at those grassroots items, and then you build on top of that. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a future training session.